So it's a Grape Explorer talking about today. So one of my most passionate areas is, of course, Italy, and we brought up Italy, but I wanted to highlight an area that is very, very fascinating today in Tuscany, because everybody knows Tuscan wines. We know Brunellos and we know Chianti Classicos, but this is an area that I don't think that a lot of people know, and it's called Carmignano. And Carmignano is right above Florence. So if we look at our map here, and we're all the way to the top of Florence, right up here, we can see this area. It's very, very tiny area called Carmignano. And we can actually showcase this a little bit on this map as well. But because it doesn't really show up, it's really one of those small little areas that people don't really know. And I had the pleasure and the privilege of meeting Count Bonacossi and his daughter that own Cappezana. He is Count Bonacossi. This property historically goes back to the Medicis and is a very, very historical property, but it was one of the true original Super Tuscan wines. What do I mean by Super Tuscan? Well, there's Chianti was explained to me by a producer in Chianti, and he said, you know what Chianti means? It's called blended wine. And it was never 100% Sangiovese. They would actually, do different grapes in the process. But in this area, they have plantings of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. Sangiovese, of course, is king. So that's going to be about 60% of the wines that go into Carmignano. But when you start blending in Cabernet and Merlot, oh, hello, that's called Super Tuscan wines. But Carmignano is a DOCG. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. There's not a lot of producers there. It's very, very tiny. But it flows off the radar because a lot of people don't know Carmignano. But I had the privilege of tasting 15 vintages one year when I was in Italy of this property. They were proud to show the wines, proud to taste the wines. But when I tasted the older wines, I was like, wow, these are really, really, really terrific wines that nobody really knows. So it was a pleasure for me, but I wanted to highlight Cappezana because these wines are one of the true iconic wines in all of Tuscany, of course, all of Italy, but they make really, really good wines and they fly under the radar. Shh, nobody knows about these wines, so it keeps the prices down. We're talking under $40 a bottle. You know, Brunello right now is well over $100 a bottle. So when you want a true classic, and we're talking about 14th century, 15th century area where they were producing wines. Even the Romans were producing wine in this area. The Etruscans were producing wine. I wanted to break out this too. This is Sheldon and Pauline Wasserman's classic book of Italian wines. And we want to see the chapter right here because they did a dedication to this area of Carmignano. And they talk about this area as one of the finest wines in all of Tuscany. But guess what? They only had one producer. They do 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star, and of course no star. Guess who was the only 4-star producer in Carmignano? It's right here. This was the producer, the only one that actually got 4 stars because they tasted the wines back and they still said that these wines were still aging after 30, 40 years. And we're talking about wines that were tasted in the 60s and the 70s. So very, very classic stuff. I wanted to at least share my experience with people to understand great Italian wines and what I consider to be classic Tuscan wines. Again, this is a Grape Explorer talking about great Italian wines.